di neko. Adon da ko na huit acha has ajdota hut ko shmayaja ajlaja. Na khadat da ko na huit aja. Edo ho da ho ishuko tan tsading. The never ada huilia Johnson ko adot ehda. Nan da dolle ko da nan kitsi lole. Hanaini nego ho e na hat nan shil ko shinda ben hada ho e ben so ko hota e ben da dilnish so hota e joba insan shi sa zinge ko ado ko de but so de se hit de do haye but ko ko and the ko is hata el shin e ban saskis large na halan ko de safety will yegi ede ado o da so ado hat ida ye holne a chida in it abts so da e large e ban saskis da ado e kede da ado leshin da de dan shi den da wait ado ko yal do ho be da do ne si da ho san ki je ho da ya ado ko be ban wait ko be ben da don be sa ho do ne ko be na da na di ka yego be ni het zi do le hiji da anan da sto ko end ko hashin so bijna atzil ko ado tata ado skiti tin that ya ko ben zede kise ko ado le ko ya ho skita di tin ho ya ado le peso ben peso na lia ke bijna ni zi do le ko ya nan shi di ni se da ede ban zede kiste ti dina khdo ste kon za ho ji ko ko da shi to des do le ko da ist da also ni hol kan do le ko di den ho ba ho jon den ya den di geni ho nchi ya nchi ba ho jon nchi di geni en dan sa to da ho da sa ba ho jon sa ya sa di geni ko bi na ne ka to le ko bi ho da do ta ho nchi ta ho jon känna inte to le in sono de di so des do le ko ni ko no so do le ko it's do dan che do ato che ki chi dus ka na ne do ka dis ka ko hat na ne ka to le ko da so zun ben hit ha se do le na han do la do le shan do la do le ko do hun so do le to ho jong do le jon so de de ko ho jong na hasle do le ho jong na hasle. Thank you, Chairman.
Sure. Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Hutchins and the corrosion yet I hope not that need to but not any hit that nas delegation of the ticket or list or a share and sago. Shane Nasnana we'll move down to announcements. Mr. Tahi, any announcements for us?
Good morning, Chair members of RDC. You have a work session scheduled today with NABI at 1 p.m. to go over legislation 0232-21. This legislation is regarding the hydrogen project. It will be done via telecommunications. Also, tomorrow you have your regular NABI meeting at 10 a.m. On Friday, you have a leadership meeting with Navajo HPD on the Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act on the government-to-government consultation as well. Chair members of RDC, as you're well aware of, a speaker did issue a memo that closed down the legislative branch. We are working remotely as well, and we remain open. But because of the no travel also issued by OLS, our meeting for next week on the 20th and the 21st, the leadership meeting on the LGA certified chapter as well as with NHA will need to be rescheduled. I am currently looking at new dates to put those meetings at. We'll be opening back up on the 24th when the Navajo Nation 24th Council Winter Session starts as well. So, Chair, those are my announcements this morning. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any announcements? I hear none. We'll go ahead and move down to recognizing guests and visiting officials. Let's have introductions for all, starting with RDC. Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Chairman, thank you. It's time again. Thomas Walker Jr., Edition. Western Navajo Agency, Adingo. The Nance. Banashahagi, Banashnashiki, Ya Tro. Wanahane, Signi Tro. Nana Hassan. Deko Hassan. What Ego Shlago. Task and Elizabeth Hadawi, so the Nekat, Banasha, which is 24th Council Chair. Don't mention Shin, being a toll in Bush's chain to so this chair that Edo said this busy national. But the question and Hassan. Chair, back to you.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I run the Kudo Sel Kahaf Senat Ani. Kado State Sekudo Herman Daniels Jr. I don't answer any gave it on me. It's a chain that's there. As can't load as another. I run that toy head lady that's a check. What I could can't get in it or less. I don't know old jet to shot to flappy kin. I don't know on a banashness. What I need to do to state all this Kudo. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I just muted myself. Good morning, colleagues and Senigi Resource Development Committee members. Shea Mark Freeland and Shiro, Senigi Totsoni, Shonok Kia Ani, Bush's Chin, Sandra Kennedy Che. I don't send that business. Good morning from Phoenix, the state capital down here. I'm with Honorable Kealan Begay as well as other members of the Navigatia State Task Force and other colleagues from the Arizona side. As the chair, I'm here just to advocate and assist in any way that I can with state governmental issues and state efforts. So, we represent the areas of Crown Point, the Senti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, and Nayuza. Good morning, colleagues, everyone, the staff, everyone on this call. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Oh, good morning, Chairman. Nez, Vice Chair Walker, Shanaika, Seamus Tahi, staff this morning, and division directors and all others online. Wilson C. Stewart Jr. and do tell that it's and do tell do back L sheet G but had the shot out of 45 agency represent as a resource development committee. Put so the age don't understand touching but just touching the shade don't be behind the Chanel. And again, good morning each and every one of you. Open session, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable Begay.
Chairman, Kealan here.
Introductions.
Chairman, gross edge, and on his national Kiani. This is that's a chair. Other days, that's another 5 chapters that I represent. The Mountain, Kachipu Gap, Talani, Kenwood, Nosley, and the Mini Farm. Seat outing chair. That's a seat. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, it's a Jay Rick Nazin, she was son and or Zayt Kachin, Bashis Chains and a business at Shado Kia on it. A Chicago chapter Spanish, Nishige, Hogback, San Juan, and Hanzar, Upper Fruit, and Burnham, Don Newcomb. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We do have colleagues on the call with us. Honorable Aroso.
Good morning, Chairman, the members of the Resources and Development Committee. Ich bin also in Shia, so nach keine Toyhet Linien schlimm. Dann ein Kappa Haibas Shin. Look at the Neda Shadot and at Geneda Smell. I didn't need a tunnel. The Bishmas and a in Schligo a Anasha. So, yeah.
Thank you. We also have on the call with us Shemaya Tohaltsoro, Honorable Amber Kennesbaugh Crotty.
Yes, Asia's Chairman Nez, Resource and Development Committee members, thank you for the recognition. Sheikh Ani Nishla do Bilagana Bashishin. Those are the Scandinavian Vikings. Destiny the Shichedo Bilagana de Chanele, and those are my dad's parents from the Ireland Isles. So thank you, Chair. I represent 7 communities in the Northern Agency: Sheep Springs, Two Great Hills, Benosty, Red Valley, Cove, Gadiai, and Biclabato. I'm on the Budget and Finance Committee, and I appreciate this everyone being on the call today and the work that's being conducted by the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Testing.
Thank you, Honorable Crotty. Please mute your phones. Ashwada, my phone made it up. Thank you. We do have our RDC staff and speaker staff on the call with us. Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, Chair members of RDC. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm Kia'ani and Senja Kine, and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Woody? Ms. Woody?
Chair, Teresa Woody is having computer problems. Her mic is not working on her computer. I'm letting you and RDC members know, as well as those on the line.
She's on her cell phone.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Khan?
Oh, good morning. Yad Resources and Development Committee members, Danothiniki, Ado Beshmantasa Anigi, Danothiniki. Good morning. Ado Yad Edeneshik She Mariana Khan, the Shijine. Dona and the Shiniki ate hot here, leaning Nishle, but Annie Bash's chain. Last cheer dashed shade, Senji Kenna Dashanala. I could our son Nishle. Mond Annie Khan will end Ado Shije Chester Khan will end She Session be told Dan Nasha. So, Mr. Chair, back to you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Khan. Thank you. Ms. Shiako?
Chair.
Yes.
Good morning. This is Teresa. I'm going to introduce myself now. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Go ahead.
Yat Beneshe, Teresa Woody, and Shiedo, Kapahan, Shot, Bethlehem, Bashes Chin, Kia Ani, the Shicherots, and a Janeta Shanala, with on each, and that has a Zidole, Mr. Chair, and RDC members, and whoever's on the call. And then thank you, Shijem, Mr. Walker, and General Hatzarins, and with on each, and that has a Zidole, Mr. Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. Ms. Shiako?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Resources and Development Committee. Melinda Arviso, Siako Yan Shiedo, Sitna Jinin Shlon, Kia Ani Bashichin, Twidichini Dashid Shado, Dashchini Dashanele, Legislative Staff Assistant for the Office of the Speaker in Winter Rock, Arizona. Doyat Ehibin and Hidini Dolechdo, Nana Shadai, Delegate Walker, Hiat Lanskago to the Zenigi behind the Ado Nana Shea, General Bay. And thank you for having us on the call today.
Thank you, Ms. Siako. Staff, Mr. Tahi, we really want to thank you for the work that you do for RDC and the Navajo Nation. sending us schedules, coordinating meetings for us. We appreciate it. Ms. Woody, I want to say thank you very much for doing all the reports and being a part of RDC. I don't hear that Ms. Khan. I want to thank you and OLC over there for the awesome work that you all do drafting legislations. I know we all have to be a team working together. Thank you, Ms. Khan. Ms. Yako, thank you for assisting RDC. Assisting RDC staff as well and coordinating with Speaker's office. Thank you very much, staff. May God bless each one of you for the work that you do. Do we have Senator Carlisle Begay on the call with us? Senator Begay? What about Mr. Jason Sandell?
Honorable Chairman, this is Jason Sandell. I am here, sir.
Mr. Sandell, could you introduce yourself, sir?
Mr. Honorable Chairman, as I would, it'd be a great pleasure for me to do as much. Shall I go ahead and proceed now, Mr. Chairman?
Just introduction, that's all, sir. We'll
yes, sir.
Do the rest during reports.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jason Sandell, and I am from Farmington, New Mexico. And my father is Jerry Sandell, a longtime New Mexico state representative, also from Farmington, New Mexico, and my mother is Nancy Sandell.
Thank you for getting on the call with us, Mr. Sandell. I would like to just say thank you for volunteering to coach our youth. When you coach soccer in San Juan County, I was one of the referees as well. So it's good to hear your voice, Mr. Sandell, and welcome to Resource and Development Committee this morning.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman.
Yes, sir. Do we have Senator Begay on the call? I'm sure he'll get on the call. Do we have Mr. Filford, Office of President, Vice President?
Good morning, Chair, members of Resource Development Committee, staff, and everybody that's on the line. This is Davis Filford from Office of the President, Vice President, Executive Staff, Assistant Kilichi, and Shado, Class Chief Buses Chain, and that's a Shado, Twilichi, and that's I'll be listening in and taking notes, as well as Nabi today. Oh, that day.
Thank you, Mr. Filford. Do we have the Department of Justice on the call?
Chairman Nez, this is Carlisle Begay. My apologies for missing your introductions.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Senator Begay.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, members of the Resources and Development Committee. Good morning, Vice Chair Walker. My apologies for the delayed calling in. We're here at Tribal Legislative Day at the State Capitol. Have many of your colleagues down here today as well, but by formal introduction, Shay Carlisle Begay, thanks again for having this meeting today, and I'll keep an eye out for Rodney to give me notice when our report is up. Okay, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Begay. Anybody else on the call wishes to introduce themselves? There's none. Mr. Tahi, could you read the agenda for us, sir?
The chair member of RDC, Resource and Development Committee of the 24th Navigation Council, regular meeting, Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, 10 a.m., proposed agenda, presiding, Honorable Ricky Nez, chairperson, Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., vice chairperson. Location via telecommunication. 1, call to meeting to order, roll call, invocation, and announcements. Number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Number 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. Number 4, reviewing and approving the journals, January 5th, 2022. 5, receiving reports. A, update report on New Mexico's hydrogen strategy and the pending federal and regional investments and the policy discussion in hydrogen. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, approving an executive leadership meeting with Tallgrass Energy and Navajo Land Department on the hydrogen pipeline project for Thursday, January 13th, 2022 at 8 a.m. via teleconference. B, approving an executive leadership session with U Mountain Chairman Manuel Hart on feral horses for Friday, February 4th, 2022 at 9 a.m. via teleconference. C, approving a 2-day executive work session with Navajo Department of Justice Water Rights Unit, Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission, Office of Legislative Counsel, Office of the Speaker, and Office of the President and Vice President on the water rights settlements and litigations for February 17th through 18th, 2022 at Twin Arrows Casino Resort. D, approving a leadership meeting with Division of Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture, and Navajo Nation Land Department to conduct a site tour of the Winslow Track for Monday, February 28th, 2022 at 1 p.m. E, approving a work session with DNR, DOA, NNLD, Fish and Wildlife Department, Forestry Department, and the District Grazing Committee and BIA of Indian Affairs on the limited 10-sheet unit in the Navajo partition land for Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 at 9 a.m. 8, close of meeting, announcements, and adjournment. Chair, that is the proposed agenda read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Chairman, motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Thank you very much. Honorable members of RDC, are there any comments or questions on the agenda? Any amendments?
Chairman Callan.
Honorable Begay.
Chairman, yesterday I sent an email and also earlier I sent a text to add the discussion, if not a directive, to the Department of Agriculture regarding a situation with the grazing official stipend process. We need to get an official response back to our grazing official on this particular issue. Chairman, that's my motion.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Begay, honorable members of RDC, there is a motion for Amendment 1 to include Department of Agriculture on the grazing official stipends and a report from Department of Agriculture. Motion by Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Delegate Daniels. I'll second.
Honorable Daniels seconds the motion for Amendment 1. Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Any comments or questions on Amendment 1? I hear none. We'll go ahead and vote on Amendment 1. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr.
Chairman Kealan votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
In favor.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. They're not voting, motion carries. Back to the main motions, and any comments or questions?
Shana, Chairman.
Honorable Stewart.
Oh, Shana, no, staff. Shana, I want to ask if we can hear a report or a presentation from N2A and IHS as far as what we've been hearing for the SDS projects and the funding and what the plans are to implement those with the changes in that legislation of 257 Nigi.
Honorable Stewart, you're making a motion for Amendment 2.
Oh, Shana.
Okay, N2A report on IHS funds and the changes to legislation 0257-21. We have Nabikia at 1 o'clock today, but we can try and squeeze everything in today. We can go ahead and do that. There is a motion by Honorable Stewart for Amendment 2. Is there a second? Is there a second? One twice.
Yeah.
Honorable Begay, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Chairman.
None? Yes.
This is Delegate Otto. So maybe with this motion motion and second that's in place, the Twin chapter wants to have a dialogue in pertaining to the business site lease authority that has been granted to the chapter. And they want to have a leadership meeting. And maybe within this motion, you guys could add this to your agenda and entertain a date when you guys could possibly have this discussion with the chapter in a leadership meeting setting. Motioning party, if you could you add that on? Thank you.
Honorable we would like to have an official request, preferably a letter, a memorandum from Tuba City chapter in reference to the business site lease. And perhaps what we can do is have a leadership meeting on this, as well as other areas of the Navajo Nation, and discuss this thoroughly during the leadership meeting, Honorable but we need to have an official letter for this topic, Honorable
Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Oh, I'll go ahead and get that, have them do a letter request. And the business site lease authority has already been granted to them. And it's not but I'll go ahead and get an official letter from them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members of RDC, there is Amendment 2, motion by Honorable Stewart, second by Honorable Kiel and Begay Jr. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay, how do you vote?
Kiel votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Freeland? We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Back to the main motion. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote, sir?
Chairman, I vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Keelan votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland? Honorable Stewart? Honorable Stewart? We have a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed. They're not voting. Motion carries. We do have an approved agenda before us. Honorable colleagues, there are 2 additions. Amendment 1, report from Department of Agriculture on grazing official stipends. Amendment 2, NTA report on IHA funds in reference to 0257-21 changes. So that will be B and C. We're down to number 4 on the agenda, reviewing and approving journals from January 5, 2022. Would like to have a motion and a second.
Chair, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by?
Second, Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Thank you. Any comments or questions on the journals? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Green. I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Keelan votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green. And thank you to our staff, and Julia. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. They're not voting. Motion carries for the journals from January 5th, 2022.
Freeland votes green. Sorry, Freeland votes green.
Honorable Freeland votes green. Vote changes to 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Number 5, receiving reports. Update report on New Mexico's hydrogen strategy and the pending federal and regional investments and policy discussion on hydrogen. Presenters will be Senator Carlisle Begay and Mr. Jason Sandell. Senator Begay, you'll go first.
Thank you, Chairman. And once again, good morning, honorable members of the Resources and Development Committee. I wanted just to provide an introduction to Mr. Jason Sandell, who really is leading the efforts on the New Mexico side in partnership with the Governor Lujan Grisham's office and the congressional delegation. And meetings and efforts focused on the interests that Governor Grisham in particular has stated and publicly committed a focus in the San Juan Basin on developing a hydrogen hub. If you recall, in my report to the committee right before Christmas, I had specifically outlined that as a result recently of the bipartisan infrastructure package that was passed by Congress this past November, signed into law by President Biden in November, there were specific provisions in that particular set of legislation that provides a focus congressionally on development of hydrogen hubs across the country. There's significant investment in hydrogen by Department of Energy and other stakeholders in the tune of $8 billion plus. And I think that the nation, and in particular this committee with this jurisdiction, would serve itself well in being engaged in the discussions ensuring that your voice is being heard at the decision-making table, and also especially with an expectation of our upcoming trip to DC in a few weeks, that Jason Sandell can cover some background and preparation for that visit. And I'll be intentionally scheduling a meeting with the Department of Energy on this particular topic to ensure that the nation isn't left behind in the decisions pending by the administration. So with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'll turn the call over to Mr. Sandell.
Thank you, Senator Begay. Mr. Jason Sandell, you have the floor, sir.
Terrific. Thank you, Honorable Chairman Nez, and thank you to yourself and Honorable Vice Chair Walker and honorable members of the Resource and Development Committee for having me have the opportunity to present to you all this morning.
Mr. Sandell?
Yes.
Mr. Sandell, you have
Yes,
20
sir.
minutes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. May I seek your advice? Would you like for me to have my presentation on the screen or just talk through it, Mr. Chairman?
Both is fine. Talk through it on the screen as well.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you again, Honorable Chairman Nez and honorable members of the Resource and Development Committee. Again, my name is Jason Sandell from Farmington, New Mexico. And the purpose of my presentation today is to inform the Resource and Development Committee about hydrogen energy development opportunities and the key role that the Navajo Nation can play in these opportunities. A little bit about myself. I'm just active in the San Juan Basin, primarily in my day job as a drilling and well servicing contractor, but really as an energy advocate and as somebody that really cares a lot about our community. And my message today is about the reality that a low or no carbon transition is highly unlikely, if not impossible, without a clean energy fuel. And as a proud energy exporter who has historically powered the Western United States, our communities collectively are up to the challenge and ripe for investment. And I must start every presentation saying that it's the men and women of industry who take time away from their families, answer the beck and call, and risk life and limb such that people across the world can drive their cars and turn on their lights and heat their houses and have the opportunities that they have in their lives. And I have to express appreciation to those men and women in our industry. Our communities have seen a massive decline in the health and wealth since the global economic crisis of 2008. And this decline is in both tribal and non-tribal communities and amongst union and non-union laborers. The Four Corners is one of 5 priority areas identified by a presidential report focused on empowering workers through revitalizing energy communities. And our communities have worried, and it is time we need hope. And we are collectively the definition of an economically, socially, and racially disadvantaged community that the president's infrastructure package is identifying as ready for investment. First, Executive Order 13985, entitled Advancing Racial Equity and Support for Underserved Communities, states that it is the policy of the Biden administration to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all by providing everyone with the opportunity to reach their full potential. This same executive order defines underserved communities as populations that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in all aspects of economic, social, and civic life, specifically identifying Native Americans and persons living in rural areas and those that are adversely affected by persistent poverty. I think that executive order very clearly defines our collective communities. The American Jobs Plan brings innovation. The president said, our future is going to be built upon a strong foundation, but with a willingness to innovate. And innovation is right before us in the opportunities contained in the American Jobs Act. Frankly, I believe that the investment contained in the president's infrastructure investment package is the type of hope that we are starving for when we're looking to the future of energy development. This investment is $8 billion for hydrogen hubs and nearly another $1.5 billion for carbon sequestration. Looking at what this means, the Hydrogen Council, as of January 2020, identified 18 governments whose economies account for more than 70% of global GDP who have developed hydrogen national strategies. There are reputable hydrogen market valuation estimates indicating annual market size of up to 11.7 trillion by 2050. And many recent at-scale project announcements validate the significant growth trajectory. So my question is, why would we turn our backs on this investment? This map on the screen shows global hydrogen production potential, which is now called clean hydrogen, according to definitions established according to laws passed in the United States. The current definition focuses on measurable carbon intensity rather than the feedstock. It explicitly—
Jason Bendo is reporting to the RDC Navajo Nation right now.
Please mute your phones. I hear someone talking. Sorry about that, Mr. Sandell. You may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Nez. And it explicitly includes hydrogen produced from renewables, fossil fuels with carbon capture, nuclear, and other eligible sources. It initially defines clean hydrogen to mean hydrogen produced with a carbon intensity equal to or less than 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent produced at the site of production. So let's talk, when the Investment Act identifies $8 billion for hub investments across the United States, what is a hub? Well, the law that's passed, the Infrastructure Act, identifies and defines a hydrogen hub as a network of clean hydrogen producers, potential clean hydrogen consumers, and connective infrastructure located in close proximity. Further, the law clearly identifies that there will be 4 hubs, at least 4 hubs invested in, and those 4 hubs must provide a diversity of feedstock, so fossil fuels, renewable energy, or nuclear energy, end use diversity, electric power generation, industrial sector, residential and commercial heating or transportation, and then finally, geographic diversity, where at least 2 of the regional hubs must be located in regions in the United States with the greatest natural gas resources. Again, from the executive order where our communities are clearly identified as disadvantaged communities, to now the investment law where there will be $8 billion invested in hydrogen hubs, and the definition of hubs across the United States and tribal nations very clearly putting the target or the focus and the emphasis very squarely into the 4 corners of the United States, and in my opinion, the Navajo Nation. The advantages that are provided coming from the Rocky Mountain regions are that we have current infrastructure and support, a strong base of infrastructure and regional policy of support that can support cost-effective clean hydrogen immediately. The region has renewable energy resources and a state policy to support clean hydrogen production. We are at the intersection with an emerging carbon capture economy, including storage and beneficial use and pipeline infrastructure. Our states and tribal nations have proven to be a leader in national environmental policy, including methane mitigation and the Energy Transition Act. We also have institutions and universities with a long history of working with national labs on hydrogen issues, as evidenced by, I have listed here Biotech, but also Big Navajo. There are existing financing mechanisms to support energy transportation systems, and the region provides an opportunity to help the administration meet their environmental justice and tribal community energy transition goals. Ultimately, employees displaced from the coal and oil and gas industry can help build a new clean hydrogen economy in the Southwest. Very specifically, looking at Executive Order 14008, which clearly identifies that 40% of investments that will be made in clean energy will be investments to disadvantaged communities and inform equitable research and development and deployment within the Department of Energy, really stands by a unified letter that was sent to Congress by many of the tribes and nations across the United States, as well as organizations supporting those tribes and nations. And just to take a quote directly from that letter, because I was impacted, where it was identified that 1/4 of the United States onshore oil and gas reserves, 1/3 of the nation's Western low sulfur coal, 3.5% of the nation's wind energy, and approximately 5% of the nation's total solar energy potential is all contained on tribal lands. And that letter states, for decades, the federal government has recognized that Indian country has substandard infrastructure in every sector. Deprivation and disparities, and the resources are not the resources our ancestors bargained for when they entered a trust and treaty relationship with the United States as political sovereigns. Strong sovereign to sovereign relations and strong tribal nation economies often benefit local surrounding communities as well, through increased job opportunities and increased commerce. I think that those are very similar to the comments, Mr. Honorable Chairman Nez, that I read that you made before the United States Congress, and is very much in line with the Justice 40 initiative, which identifies that investments need to be made into communities like ours. There are additional opportunities for inclusion. There's a philosophy that's been pushed forward by the American Jobs Act, as well as these executive orders, where the investment philosophy for hubs across the United States and in tribal nations are that we're part of a national, tribal, state, and local comprehensive, durable, and enforceable climate policy framework. That equity and justice are clearly shaping and underpinning clean energy decisions and investment, including clean hydrogen. And hydrogen is a key part of the overall goal of carbon-free electricity production by 2035 and net zero by 2050. Hydrogen investment allows a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to coordinate federal government, tribal nations, state departments to ensure workforce training programs are inclusive, locate new training programs in tribal and rural areas, prioritize minority and women-owned businesses, and promote project labor agreements, and situate pre-apprenticeship programs across the region. Hydrogen hub development across the Rocky Mountains and in our region will deliver clean energy jobs into rural areas. And local workforce development will be available not requiring advanced education. There is current legislation that is getting ready to be proposed in the New Mexico legislature, which begins their regular session next Tuesday. Governor Lujan Grisham has circulated her discussion draft, which establishes standards for what is clean hydrogen, clearly defining hydrogen based upon its carbon output rather than its feedstock source. It establishes diversity standards and nods to the Sustainable Energy Task Force, safety standards and worker training, provides tax credits, and establishes regulatory authority into the New Mexico Environment Department. Further, House Appropriations and Finance Chairwoman Patty Lundstrom from Gallup also has legislation that defines criteria as a hydrogen hub, creates public-private partnerships in the state of New Mexico for hydrogen hub projects, creates a development board with hub designation powers, and determines that the New Mexico Finance Authority is the fiscal agent in the state of New Mexico for hydrogen hub project funds and bonding authorities. So ultimately, Honorable Chairman Nez, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, and honorable members of the Resource and Development Committee, my goal today was to inform about hydrogen energy development opportunities, which are the investment that can come from the American Jobs Act, plus any private money that will be following those hub designations, and truly the key role that the Navajo Nation can play in these opportunities. And I turn to a quote that was provided by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham after the Energy Transition Act was passed in the state of New Mexico. And I think that her quote then truly applies to much of the conversation today, where this legislation is a promise to future generations of New Mexicans who will benefit from both a cleaner environment and a more robust energy economy with exciting career and job opportunities. So that is the message that I wanted to provide to you today. And truly, Honorable Chairman Nez, the honor is all mine to be able to offer this presentation and stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. Senator Begay, would you like to add anything?
Honorable Chairman Nez and members of RDC, I think Mr. Sandell covered the topic very well. The only thing that I will add is, as you're aware, there was a similar meeting briefly with Arizona State University and their efforts very much on a parallel path. And I'll just reiterate to the committee that these conversations are happening, and without Navajo Nation's representation and voice at the table. And I think the engagement by this committee is timely. As Mr. Sandell mentioned, the clock was already ticking. The 80-day clock that was mandated in statute and legislation as a part of the infrastructure package. So we're playing a little bit of catch up, but Chairman, I think this is something the committee could benefit from, but I appreciate, Chairman, your support and having this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Begay. Certainly appreciate it. Mr. Sandell, thank you very much also. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second to accept the report.
Chair, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second.
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart, seconds. Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any questions or comments on the presentation on this hydrogen strategy and the investments that was presented to us? Chair Thomas Walker. Yes, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Thank you, Chairman and committee members, colleagues of the 24th Abolition Council. Our staff and then the listening audience for our meeting today. Although the presenters for the report, Mr. Sandell, appreciate the report you provided to the committee here this morning. Although Senator Brigado and so the Navajo Nation government, the Navajo Nation as a whole, taking time to discuss some of these interests, these developing, emerging interests that are obviously on the horizon for us. And then looking back at our history as far as natural resource, the energy resources we were part of providing or developing here on the nation for fuel and energy consumption. But looking back and then looking at today, where we are, and then looking to the future. So this discussion or this presentation certainly gives you that feeling, looking to the future. As Navajo Nation elected leaders, often we would look to our branch chiefs, the leadership that we have in place, and ask them, okay, what is the feedback? What is the discussion they may have? What are their interests as well as concerns? I think this is a good question for the nation in terms of it being discussed in that fashion. So obviously looking towards the executive branch of the Navajo Nation, our Division of Natural Resources, ADA, as well as the President and Vice President. And I'll say this in Navajo. Power plant the Doshin be peso the well juice linko. Kade ella it o bekek at naza o tada is called kadado lichodo libo. So kade it out non in the adol shanding that egi ni yolda tota ajpe adol jadi tsan shul yegi ada ishin adol ije energy energy development ada dikat nana benchil khanna khanchit up means busy hydrogen ko nchi chekla konda zol yetu propane e hata be nichi ko to kweda tabe chekta hoilne da dida akola hinanta the lebananta large at sea and leniki e shidoshin hata shush kohnetza bada nola illa uta ibn in sahakisto hata ko hata ibansas kisiko beshmas an hido oversight ni clinic hido be yel ban kisto banani tra na tradi tato ha de la beta initial halit Jokoda or Joshe Quinson. Ashazan Gebensas Kisiki Eto Shingiego, Balconits and Johnson, Nta, that Eyako Shinhaljish, they need Ido Ligi, and Sishin as a Balcodanos, artisan Sazan Ge Echo. I got the never cashed, Niki Edo E. Shin Anson, which Archicalnit, Nigi.
Ako said Jenny Gisbahas and all either HB Ko the power plant eighty Gisbahas and Ajugo. Other shanting bed at the kit or the Higido Edo Ekat in the Bada Wind in the Beda Inish that nada to Legion he didn't know. Or Adon New York up a bed basically as bed at this Kigi with other Edo Bada Wind. Di Gishing a height in the Bani Cray. John Langsin Nagoshi de Bandal, the Joe at a Nad Soscon dash what about Hako. They put that nada other. She paid the initial she nay get that la. There's no she yard bed could nay ye be in Bayadat. A concern that the bench or G don't and then she didn't. On Hinant alla a benit or Ponet Zadon Seneco. Junanta. Oda Sabe has said or lectured on Sarkist a at Ed on the side. I want to make those comments. I could get some feedback, just speaking to some of the comments that I've made. Kutela, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. One of your questions was, what does the Navajo Nation president think of this? Yes,
Chairman, that's, one of those questions there.
Okay, we do have Mr. Filfred on the call with us from the President's office, and perhaps he could respond to that or relay that question to the President. Mr. Filfred?
Mr. Chair, members of Resource and Development Committee, I'm taking notes. If you're going too fast, it's not word per word, but trying to hit the high point. And my notes from every day are given to Deputy Chief, who's my immediate boss, and the Chief himself, Vice President, of course, our attorney and DOJ, and everybody who needs to. They all see the notes that I take. I don't go back and recorrect it. I send it as it is, so it's kind of like hot off the press type. Certainly, this notes will be given to them, and he'll know more about it. I'm pretty sure he does already. But for now, all I can say is I'll give him the notes. I can't answer here for him today. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Filford, for doing the work that you do, taking notes, and also going back to the President to inform him of some of the work that's going to get done in the very near future. Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? Honorable Vice Chair Walker, I do have a question if you would recognize me, sir.
Certainly, Chair Hakushin. I can take the gavel,
okay, thank
virtual
you.
gavel, and allow you to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Mr. Sandell, in your presentation on this $8 billion for the hydrogen hubs, is this $8 billion funding that will be available throughout the United States? And will it be shared? How will it be shared by energy companies from each state? Will the Navajo Nation separately receive some of these funds for these hydrogen initiatives, sir? That will be my question, Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question, and to the presenter, Mr. Sandell. provide a
Thank you.
response.
Yes, Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Honorable Chairman Nez, thank you very much for that question. The answer is that it is yet to be determined. The infrastructure law that was passed identifies that this money will be allocated to the United States Department of Energy. And then the United States Department of Energy will be having a competitive process whereby applications will be submitted to the Department of Energy to draw down or to seek this funding. And there is not specification if it is directly to states, directly to universities, to corporations, or to tribal nations. But that is very much what the purpose of the conversation that I bring to you today is that I believe on behalf of our community that the Navajo Nation most definitely should have a seat at the table and has a key role in these opportunities, and we collectively ought to take instruction from you all in how we can work together to benefit our larger community and our region.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. I'll back to you, Chairman Nez, for a follow-up question.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, and thank you, Mr. Sandell, for your question. The reason I asked that question is also Navajo Nation has two energy companies, Navajo Transitional Energy Company, as well as Navajo Nation Oil and Gas. And I was just wondering what the tribal nations will be receiving, if any, and how they need to apply. I do appreciate your response. So my other question as a follow-up to this is, what is it that we need to do? The Resources and Development Committee is the oversight over energy. And therefore, I believe that we probably should have a leadership meeting separately with your office, Mr. Sandell, Senator Begay, as well as INTEC and Navajo Nation Oil and Gas to discuss these funding that will be coming, or just Resources and Development Committee would be fine. I have not heard from Navajo Nation Oil and Gas or INTEC whether they will be exploring for hydrogen yet, and therefore it might be prudent for the Resources Committee here to perhaps spend about a day or more than 20 minutes to really get information on hydrogen. I understand hydrogen has color coded as well, Mr. Sandell, and I think we need to go back to the foundation of all this to fully understand what it is that we will be looking at, because the future of clean energy is before us, and therefore we don't want the Navajo Nation to be left behind. There's companies that are willing to work with the nation itself, but we need to fully understand before we take these steps forward safely. Mr. Sandell, back to you, Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you, Chairman, for that follow-up question. A response, Mr. Sandell?
Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Honorable Chairman Nez, I think that you understand precisely exactly how to move forward, which is to educate yourselves about the potential and the opportunities, understand the direction that the nation would like to go with regard to those opportunities, and then create the conversations and the relationships to effectuate what your desires are. And so I think, Honorable Chairman Nez, the direction that you've identified is advisable and right on.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. Chairman, any other questions you may have?
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. I do have another question. Mr. Sandell, when you expounded on what is a hub, and it is a network of clean hydrogen of those who work in that field in close proximity. And I'm glad that you are before us as Navajo Nation leadership dealing with resources of the Navajo Nation. Now, San Juan County is just right next to us here. We are part of San Juan County here on the northeastern portion of the Navajo Nation, and I'm just right here at Lower Fruitland area. So we must be considered a hub then, working and reaching out to each other within the San Juan County, correct? Sir, back to you, Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you, Chairman Nez. Mr. Sandell, another response?
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Honorable Chairman Nez. So we have the potential to be a hub. A hub requires that we produce hydrogen, whether it be from fossil fuels, renewable energy, or nuclear energy, that we consume hydrogen, whether it be in vehicles or electricity production, and to be connected via infrastructure in close proximity. So our region, our collective communities most definitely have the opportunity to be identified as a hub, but we must all work together collaboratively to prove out the production, the distribution, and the consumption that's associated with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. Akoshin, Chairman, if you have no other questions, then I will give you back the virtual gavel here. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Mr. Sandell. Certainly appreciate your response. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions for Mr. Sandell? I hear none. Mr. Tahi, if you will. Yes,
Chairman Nez, this is Delegate Crotty. I was hoping, can I ask Mr. Sandell a question, please?
Most certainly, Honorable Member Kennesbaugh Crotty, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Chairman, and I understand the committee is stretched for time, so I appreciate the presentation. Mr. Sandell, I will send you my information as a delegate who represents the impacted communities. I do want to let the committee know that several of the chapters have passed resolutions in terms of hydrogen and wanting or just approving the green type of hydrogen, and also have concerns in terms of the possible carbon sequestration. So locally, we are having these conversations, and I think, Chair, I appreciate the leadership meeting. I would respectfully ask to be invited and add that onto my calendar, as we are having multiple conversations with the just transition from fossil fuel economy to now what will this carbon neutral energy economy look like for our four corners, and most importantly, letting our local communities know the impacts, the opportunities, and how they could be continue to be engaged in these discussions. So thank you, Chairman Nez and committee members, for this report.
Thank you, Honorable Crotty, for your question. Mr. Sandell, your response, sir.
Honorable Chairman Nez and Honorable Delegate Crotty, thank you very much for that information. I would love to exchange contact information with you so that I could learn more about the work that is being done by the chapters, and appreciate you informing me of that. Thank you, Honorable Delegate Crotty.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Okay, Honorable Stewart.
Christian Shanai, Chairman Nez Oto Vice Chair Walker, Otto Shanai, Otto colleagues this morning and staff, and Mr. Sandell, thank you for the report and the comments as well that were relayed back and forth. Shanai Oban says so this is our second one as RDC that we're talking about. The helium being the first one, and then now this one, hydrogen again. Okay, I want to ask, and this is just me again being open with my thoughts again with RDC. Can we talk with speaker as far as doing a what we had with President the High Yield Cause Committee, because I don't know what happened to them. But maybe we need to reinvent that wheel, or even just pick it back up and put it back on our wagon and put it together again as far as legislative branch goes. Because if we continue just these talks like this, we're going to miss out again on these energies that we can use and that we can proceed forward with. If New Mexico is already on board with Mr. Sandell moving forward, and then what are we as far as the council going to be doing too for the nation? And I think that we have other topics too. I think maybe a subcommittee could probably be made up as well through the council, if we sit down with speaker and see what our thoughts are as a council to put this back together. Well, that's all I want to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart, for your comment. You are correct, Cicilla, that there's been a lot of talk on helium, and we're going to have this discussion today at 1 o'clock. The Etiquette Committee is going to focus on the legislation 0232-21, and now we also have more information on hydrogen. And it behooves us as the Resources Committee to fully understand these new energies coming before the Navajo Nation. And we have been receiving a lot of information, and now it's time, honorable colleagues, it is time, perhaps we could have like a 2-day energy, safely have some sort of session at Twin Arrows, perhaps one day focus on helium and the next day focus on hydrogen. And we can ask, since Honorable Davis Filford from the President's office is on the call with us today, he could relay the message to the President and the Hayoskash work group that was focused on this as well. So since the pandemic, we have not been able to have that energy office open for the Navajo Nation, and we need to refocus. So if we could do that, Ms. Yako from the Speaker's office is also on the call, and she will provide this information also to Speaker Damon, that this is RDC's position, and this is what we need to do going forward with clean energy and focus on these. And there are funding available out there. There's grants available. We were just informed there's $8 billion, and we need to look at these. And we do have 2 energy companies that we need to assist in some way to help them perhaps explore. I know they're focused on helium at this time. So thank you for mentioning that. We will definitely go back and focus on our strategic plans as well. Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Delegate Herman Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. RDC with the Resources and Development Committee, staff, and also to the presenter. Thank you for your presentation on hydrogen. from RDC. I was selected to be on the shareholders for Navajo Nation Oil and Gas shareholders. So what I would like to suggest is that we include Navajo Nation Oil and Gas in all these all these topics, all the meetings related to hydrogen, helium, that so you don't talk about this. I don't know my colleague, without the delegate story had Ziggy. I agree with him. Could on the from the OPVP, could on the Hayoshkosh group, Hayoshkosh Sunrise, because of the group that and could do that. So that's the lights and sort of about this critical. Are they still there? The Hayoshkosh group? Are they still a group? So that about this case. Oh, that's the Hadi Castle. So it is yet all our sweet or we haven't heard anything from that group, the Hayoshkosh group. So I really like to get a word or maybe a report, an update report from them. See what their position is on these these energies that we're talking about, hydrogen that so I don't know on the solar that which is the so it is also I don't know moving forward. I think that we include Navajo Nation Oil and Gas in all these conversations and all the meetings related to the energy, green energy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Mr. Filford, is the Hayoshkosh group, are they still a group, Mr. Filford?
Chair and members of the Resource Development Committee, yes, they are, and I know they met a few times, and I'll get word to them. I'll tell Chief maybe to do an update report whenever you guys request for one. Yeah, they are and still active.
Thank you, Mr. Filford, for that, and therefore we will request a meeting with Hayoshkosh Group. Mr. Tahi, if you would add that to our agenda for the next RDC meeting and start planning on having that discussion. Perhaps a 2-day work session would be good at Twin Arrows. First day preferably on helium, the second day on hydrogen, and also include Mr. Sandell to be on that topic as well, and other experts within the Navajo Nation Oil and Gas, as well as Intech, as far as helium is concerned. Honorable Daniels did request that they would have Navajo Nation Oil and Gas be included on all these meetings that have these topics on these clean energy, hydrogen, and helium. So if you would, Mr. Tahi, we would appreciate that.
Chair, members of RDC, I have that written down, and that will be on RDC's next agenda.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? None. We'll go ahead and accept the report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green. He texted in his votes. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland texted in his vote as green. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Sandell, we will have an email coming forth to you when we schedule these work sessions at Twin Arrows Navajo Casino Resort.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman Nez, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, and honorable members of the Resource and Development Committee. It has been a great pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you as well, Senator Begay. Next on the agenda, under reports, we do have Department of Agriculture, and we would like to have them report on the grazing officials' stipends. Grazing officials have been reporting to RDC that some of them have not gotten their reimbursement for a couple of months now. Mr. Leo Watchman, are you on the call? Ms. June? Department of Agriculture? Press *6 to unmute. Mr. Tahi?
Chair, I do see Roxanne June on the call. I have asked her to unmute her phone.
Okay. Ms. June?
Hello, this is Roxy June with Navajo Nation Department of Agriculture. Hello.
Good morning. Yes, Ms. June. We added Department of Agriculture to the agenda to receive a report. Please mute your phones. Thank you. And the grazing officials are being paid late, and they're concerned. There were several complaints for several meetings for more than a month that they have not received any stipends for their pay, and they would like to know about this. Ms. June?
Yes, so the individual that that processes the claim is a new employee, and as far as I know, the claims are being processed as they are submitted, and when the claims are not processed, it's because the documentation isn't there. I know we did have issues with a meeting that was back in December, and what happened was there's a specific process in place, and we had 4 staff members that were sitting outside the conference, and we specifically told the officials, you have to sign in the morning, you have to sign in the afternoon, submit your claim forms to these individuals, and then your claim forms will be processed. So what happened was we had people not signing in, we had people not turning in their claim forms. And as the staff was cleaning up, getting paperwork together, some of the officials submitted their claims to the staff. So what happened was when the staff went home, they were on vacation or whatever happened, and some of the claims were turned in late. So all the claim forms that were submitted as required according to process to the ladies that were there, all of those claims were processed immediately. the claims that were given to staff later, and I was one of them, some of those weren't turned in right away. And again, you know, we processed everything that was submitted as requested. And I know there's another issue with when the officials are paid, you know, they're given the check, and it doesn't say on there what that paycheck is for. So an official will be paid X number of dollars, but they don't know what that is for. So we'll get, I know there's a couple officials that are telling our staff, I didn't get paid for this, I didn't get paid for that. So she looked it up and she said, yes, we did submit it, you were paid for that. And I don't know how to deal with that, because payroll is saying we have an outdated system. We can't list on those checks. We can't list what we're paying for. All you do is have this number, and then you have to try and figure out what is that amount for? What did you get paid for? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. June, for your report. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Second by?
I'll second that, Chair.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Thank you. And Dish Koro Sabah Kit. Any comments or questions? I hear none. So we'll go ahead and
Mr.
accept
Chair.
the report. Yes.
This is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't know what he cared about. I believe he's busy with meetings. This morning, I reached out to my chapter grazing officials. Not on in Lindigay Bebenanta, District 8, and also District 2, the chapters that I represent for the District 8 to go area. There's only one grazing official, that's with Ojeto, and with District 2 area, there's not on not Tohodo Trafiken, a District 2. Ado Kodo. Thank you for that. The 5 pounds and get about
that's go back.
So let's start with the altar. So the seat, Mr. Chair. Could on a grazing official this morning without the Texas stuff, and what they indicated was some grazing officials, they're okay with it, and some they're not okay with it. It probably depends on how you submit your claims. Sometimes we forget to submit our claims, but we can hit in the so the grazing one of the grazing officials, and if you submit your claim on time before the due date, you'll get paid. No, or that's a taxi. I don't know if you don't. In a 2 weeks, which in a year, no, what I say, sexy so I don't know. He also mentioned streamlining and rate direct deposit that 18 as I according to his text. So it is I just changed up direct deposit what are about that changed up the Honet. So it is that'll make the payment again a lot faster for them. So it is Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Ms. Jones, I understand that there is direct deposit for grazing officials. Are they not all under that direct deposit, Ms. Jones? What Honorable Daniels mentioned, Ms. June?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is Leo Watchman. I'm not sure Ms. June is on, but yes, all the grazing officials have the opportunity to sign up. It's kind of on their own side whether they have a bank account. But if they do have a bank account, 90 plus, maybe up to 95 have a direct deposit. And anyone that doesn't may be a new official that is waiting to be qualified to have direct deposit methods.
Are you done?
Well, I guess the other side note is that the individual has to qualify to be bankable or have a banking. Some officials do not, and a bank will not secure any banking activity. So they will be receiving a manual check on any type of compensation, and that's very few, one or two, but the rest. So that's why I'm saying 98 plus have or do qualify for direct deposit.
Mr. Watchman, earlier Ms. June also stated that grazing officials, when they're at a meeting, they sign in the morning as well as in the afternoon to make sure that they're back. So if they show up in the morning and don't come back in the afternoon, do they not get their reimbursement?
Well, that only is exercised when we have trainings, and I think some of the discussion was regarding reimbursement on a training activity. And we had a 2-day training, and there were some officials that could not attend the second day, or they did not get to the training until halfway through. So since the training dollars are a amount that's not in code, we can split that in half, or split that, say it's 2 days, we only give 1 day, or if it's only half a day, we only would use half of the stipend. And that's how for fairness of folks that are staying through the sessions and that, it's more of a self-governing of the body themselves. They more or less self-impose that. I think they do that at chapter level, but I'm not sure if they get the full stipend. In our case, we'll split the stipend, or if it's 2 days, we'll split it, or if it's half a day, we'll split the stipend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watchman. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions?
Chairman Kellen.
Honorable Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman, RDC member. However we assume of the situation, I believe that we just got to get to the bottom of why this situation continues to persist, especially with our grazing official. Could like a simple picture of the document, signatures, agenda, sign-in sheet be sent in? We have these modern technology, and there's sometimes we don't utilize it effectively. especially with some offices being closed, and then especially the timing and the amount for bagada single go o article to peso na hindi. What would be the easiest and simplest way to resolve this particular issue, just so that our grading official is able to continue to do their duty of what they're elected to do. Again, how many more times or how many more phone calls or texts would I need to get this resolved or to get this onto the agenda for us to discuss it? But there was a response back from Office of the Controller yesterday of some issues that they have been experiencing with the Department of Agriculture. That tells me that there is a situation. And that shouldn't be the case. It tells me that there's a lack of management, a lack of leadership within the administration there. I mean, these are elected officials locally. I mean, just the same way that we're elected as a delegate and the president's position. Maybe a directive in writing by us as an RDC. Maybe sit down with budget and finance. Maybe sit down with other programs to say that what will be the effective way, the easiest way, making sure that individuals are paid on a timely basis, on a timely matter. Yeah, I mean, just this is their income for their daily lives. Yeah, I'll get it when I get it. The fiscal year 2022 budget, I've tried, and we've tried to add and make and get the funding directly to the chapter. It's too late. Maybe this is the time to do resurface that particular issue. Administration, but what you find that she maybe hate about that bigger what are that bigger what huge officials and delegate or they get lost in their the bigger bigger operation that they have they're dealing with on a daily basis. I mean, how many times have we brought this up to the committee? How many times have we brought the Office of the Controller, OMB, the department to the table and say that, okay, we're the same situation again. Chairman, I'm not sure what would be the best way for us that this particular issue is resolved once and for all, and that we don't have to hear about it, but making sure that our officials get paid. Maybe include them into the way I think some elected official is getting it within their biweekly pay. I don't know. Some may not be able to do direct deposit. I mean, we don't want to force people to do that. So if they choose to get it in form of a check, and let that be. But the processing of it would really should be in a speedy fashion. Again, Chairman, I mean, Kodoshi being what Office of the Controller had experience that really tells us that there is a bigger problem right now, a bigger problem, and if we don't seem to not really take care of it quickly, And I believe that the administration or the office will continue to say that, well, asaki inito edataita inatne jot ego go sto hitanan lindigi ego be kitchen need sto tota. I mean, I think sometimes that individual is persistent and making sure to make another days at the agency level. They're in the leadership position to be speaking and talking on behalf of the rest of the local elected official. The administration or the department that's all, yeah. I'm beginning to feel that they're being, I guess, being mismanaged intentionally. And how do we resolve it is the question. With authority that to say that get this done, by God, get it done. Well, I'm glad that they're not having problem with what my grading official are having problem with. Maybe I just think that they're being looked at more than my grading official from the central agency, or if not, my 5 chapter grading official. She doesn't know that yes, she does not with that. So the ego could also grading official lands. What ego could what I been that bits in the hotel now. So the nothing so done. It's the case. This is an administrative matter. Does it really need to have the attention by the grading, our resource development committee, and even the president or the speaker of the Navajo Nation Council to say that let's resolve this? Isn't this within their plan of operation to get this done on a daily basis? That's the Ajinan Lindige Hotalia, Do Hanas Lago, that's at least a wings and don't so it on Saskasha. With Chairman, again, how they take my comment statement, let that be. But I want to make sure that our grading officials are treated equally and Hajo Nahabitin Dajin other deep by Yatiki Hajo Adna Adodni and so additional a Copenhagen Godit Kodo agenda not at least a snow Bahi Zido Bahasi. And then if our staff, Mr. Tahi, could go back of the past 4 years, how many times have we brought this up to the RDC and maybe express that to the president to say that, okay, this is the situation we still are having. The past, under your administration, this has been done. You as elected official, we as elected official, as delegate, but we're treating another elected officials in this manner. Chairman, maybe our staff bring back up a lot of these times that we put this on the agenda for resolution, but it still continues to be a problem here. So I look at your direction, your leadership, Chairman, that we get this done and resolve it as soon as possible. I appreciate the time, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Mr. Watchman?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I would like you to respond, but also let us know how long has this situation been persistent as far as grazing officials not receiving their stipends, their reimbursements on time? What are the timelines as well from the time they submit it? And talk to us about it, Mr. Watchman. We would like to come to a solution on this issue that we're having to discuss right now, Mr. Watchman.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll just be as brief as possible, hopefully be precise enough to kind of offer a solution. And going back, the settlement was entered into by the Nomination Council and IRS. So it's really not the administration. It's basically determining where does a elected official lie? Are they a full-time employee or a part-time employee, or where does elected status when it comes to tax purposes? So what ended up happening, and this has been the problem from the get-go, it's been since the past controller has basically mandated that they become a quasi-employee. So prior to that, we didn't have any problems, or we could rectify the problems internally when compensation, it could be done within a week or within days, or we could request for a demand check, so forth. But since it's fall under payroll, what's instituted about a year and a half. So a year and a half to 2 years is where we've come into problems with documentation and responsibilities that entities have outside of the previous one, which was accounts payable. Accounts payable will allow us to make a request, on an afternoon like now, and there was a problem, and have a check out by 4 o'clock. That doesn't exist. That takes 2 weeks. But the individual or the official that is brought attention about lately, or I think the email says that payroll concerns. Well, this particular, we have rectified the compensation is due annually or monthly, which monthly is $800, and their meeting stipends. The officials have been turning things on time, or when deadlines are presented. And this particular issue came that it was a non-pay was travel, was reimbursement for training, which is outside of compensation. So in a way, there are several travel employees that haven't been paid in 6 months for a TA. So it kind of falls in that category. It's not a form of it's reimbursement on training. But some of these officials had the chapter pay for their travel. So it's more or less putting on top of that event or that training that they were waiting for money. And yes, there was 4 individuals that did not get training reimbursements. All the other officials, 80-something plus, got reimbursed their last payroll. However, to get reimbursed, you have to meet a deadline, like payroll today. There's a payroll pay period ending the end of this week. There is a deadline to have these documents that be turned in, like today or yesterday or tomorrow. They all vary. Travel employee with timesheets, as well as these quasi-elected officials. They've been submitted. They are submitted. If they do not meet that deadline, then it's not put into the following pay period. So again, the mandation in terms of a settlement, that's how the nomination under the controller's office interpret the settlement. May I mind you, it was a settlement from the council and the IRS. In addition to that, I think there was also a settlement that was entered into on behalf of the council on their payroll. So this was almost 10 years ago. We just finally came in compliance about a year and a half, and yes, there has been problems, but this particular issue that's brought up, it has nothing to do with compensation. It has to do with the reimbursement of training, which what subsequently happened is 4 people did not meet the deadline, or we did not submit. And in that case, it's our fault for not following up, or what documents are needed, or even having the documents when the deadline was there. But yes, the last meeting we had, the controller was supposed to come back and say, yes, we can go back to some of the, during the heart of the pandemic, if you can use that, where we were taking photocopies of claims and on time or sign-in sheets, but they disallowed that maybe about 5 months ago with payroll. The request that came in and the resource asked the controller, can you reinstate that? Because we still have people traveling miles and miles away to submit a simple document. Can it be done like the council does, photocopy? We haven't heard a word on it. We have followed up. Maybe we need your help from the committee standpoint to get the controller. That's the only thing that I'm aware of that has some difficulties, and get an answer, try to rectify. But the other thing that was mentioned by Delegate Begay, Key Allen Begay, on other things that he's found, I'm not aware of those things. But nonetheless, just want to reiterate, We did make these in, like this past payroll, we got some officials receiving over almost $4,000, anyway from $4,000 to $1,600, depending on their activity, the training voucher, and also the monthly stipend payment. So there is some compensation that's been going out, and it has been adhered to. And thank the officials themselves. They have been more, I guess, responsible for what their part in this role is in submitting documents. Yes, it's all mandated by a reimbursement under code. So maybe we need to change the code in reference to how we reimburse in the documentation, or make them full-time employees and have a regular payroll, so we wouldn't be, dealing with this. Because yes, I am concerned, and I'm brought up a lot on reference to this, but there are 146 officials, and sometimes there's 2 or 3 that may not fill out the document correctly, and we can't find them, or we do find them, that they miss a payroll deadline, and they don't get paid on that day they're thinking. That's as an example. But we are doing, and we have had some changeover in our staff. That's not an excuse, but I can assure you, after a meeting on it yesterday, there's been no delays in any kind of compensation referencing what the IRS views as a employee. But there has been 4 people that did not get the reimbursement of $484 times 2, so $1,000 last payroll. But they got it yesterday, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watchman, for your response to Honorable Begay's concerns. And the letter was from Chinle Agency that was sent to us. And this report was requested to be added onto today's RDC agenda. And therefore, what we are looking for is a solution. Sometimes as leaders, it doesn't matter whether you're on the council, chapter officials, grazing, or farm board. We make a lot of statements. We make critical statements, and sometimes we fail to offer a solution. So today, I would recommend that we have a separate leadership meeting and invite the 5 agencies' executive officers for their grazing officials and perhaps the farm boards. Mr. Watchman did state that perhaps the code needs to be changed or make the grazing officials a full-time employee position. Perhaps when we do have this leadership meeting, controllers have this mandated them as a quasi-employee, employee, elected official dan lende quasi-employee nenigi orat ehi da shimpa hun agot ado oskihuit aho hot ausha hodadan nishiki eshe gesakada ilkit khada sidit inshanan no seniki email nichelia odo. I have several complaints to our oversight about this issue in Hitotni. We visited 5 agencies, grazing official, but let us see clean. Di kwahot an hinanish il iniki, di kwan hitchen nahot in Hitotni bahunitzen. This was part of it. Their stipends was a part of it. All 5 agencies, not just Chinle Agency. Do apide honeda as to hon. Ako honza hon fiskol jusko dit atinde past ana alta. I don't that at the bottom of this email it did say to my oversight committee. Is there another committee that may help us resolve this issue? Possibly the Budget and Finance Committee? Please give me direction on who can assist me. I am beginning to lose confidence on our oversight. The RDC. Ashin Korobaka nature than it's in the Satakashin hot on hot, so the Costonica illigata. Benina, the net, the hot elshia dalkile. Jashin don't see date in the Juba has on in Anel ain't a jo he Kairoba seat linko. Are hot quaggy hot like it didn't need a store. Ben hitching how it's so. Immigration officials are bid at Ila. So I can't on Leonard Source Hyundai need the last door. What about Egoshin as hidden magical? The nanny no whole cut and any clinician, but not our humans. We take our time sometimes. We don't meet deadlines ourselves. A quite a shimba the hunt. Anel Jones and Anish Ego Shesa hot edole. O Skihuit Aho Hela Lado less because at the no edo satil nesta. But to fix this with a solution, if it's something that we need to do as changing the code, let's do that. If it's putting the grazing officials as a full-time employee, it's something that we need to discuss. What are the things? What are Shanghai Golayat? Ela banana shidish and grazing officials off farm board. Partners Nilla chapter officials Nikinana asked Hoshit at Anhitchesla. We have direct deposit as delegates. Chapter officials Aidla to check Bahadat those once they have a quorum and a meeting is conducted. Grazing officials gave Sahonanat Ela. A Jordanil in Stojoba Satitle. Van Yadil, she had obeyed Kihit. And if the grazing officials would like to go under a different oversight, perhaps law and order, they can go under law and order. What ends and go shin so far, what neha so bigger. So what about not email Nichelia last corner. I said Lagon Hindanish. And there's a lot of complaints from even employees. Lago has a jolle lana elna. The cushion some of these problems have been in before I even became a delegate. And they're still there. Halet ado hashtag neta. In each eba wind on the cushion after Halet oh what that a geshin a job on chat chest or job by yet hit or what our shanty what on either what abikitish hit or what our own shiki so undo nis what don't need also best and once about 80 Horoba has state or less or such but Bahanana station and not Seneki honorable members of RDC.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Adonana Kodo, Ayego E. Bahe Lina Kodo, Araquides Kanda data. Bata seat Lina Ho, Adonana Kodo, and a email Instra Kodo. The code Asagi date, Kodo RDC. Adonana Kodo. Same time, the great legislation ready should know yet. Stop the great Western Agency and Chinley Agency, the chapter official stipend. It is ready should know so. Other Casatans will Kadida. A Kokado, a Zoic is not a mission. A Kodo, Eva, Bethel Sadida. you are not letting hello. Yes, I just email, text that just you are not letting go. So you are smooth. I don't know this is not new. So in that zagi edited a core on later so that they behind the out. So yeah, they had this issue regarding the stipends. I don't know I see. So that they do equado the Sagi date and some grazing officials, land board. We RDC, we really support grazing officials out in the land board. When it comes to funding, they based on the I see baby cases in the Nikki later in the Nipabananta land board. I see the cases without even the I see by years based on the side that in nationally and not at the local level, grazing official was been done the state nego. But behind it, based on that. Because that's the Ziniki, you know, hot air now. So, I don't know, I see by Hatsi by Zin, the other day. By Yananis. And today, what I indicated, some grazing officials are okay with it. I guess they're submitting their claims on time. Maybe there's a streamlined or shape of net Zanoya. So yes, it's so questions that made equal grades in the games, you know, best within the Western G within my region that would echo. So it is I don't know ba nani yeah asa ba is ne so is plant at all lesico. The cocoa and the maybe what we can do is what I would like to suggest is to have another leadership meeting. So it suggested that recommend to have another leadership meeting with the district grazing officials out of the land board, out of the with the office of the controller, out of the grazing management program, out of the initiative Department of Agriculture. So it is so but today I'm pretty sure that several grazing officials are online listening and what they want to but the leadership meeting is so it is the second round of leadership meeting on stipends. Mr. Chair, thank you. Hello?
I'm sorry, Haji Kurayashke. Nagay twin arrows that SSC clean grazing officials. It was very important for them to be there to have the work sessions, and we were glad as colleagues. Some of us were there to listen to them. They had concerns, they had questions, and everything from feral horses to stipends in the basis now. Now, 2 days of being there. Honorable Daniels, I believe that having a leadership meeting with the executive officers of the agency, grazing, as well as perhaps the land board. The land board's going to be over at Fire Rock sometime soon here. Of course, at the litigation by at this leadership meeting, we need to come to the table with a solution. Nathan the Honorable Daniels. Koro email do ishi best. The ingo ayato yo best. The equido. Hashi tahal chanda qui email is. Hajotia the best sani klingon hajona big eels fikon nahuit. Joet and hat the nahuit ago. Come up with a solution. Perhaps that will help. Adon Netlashin. A quagit ehotaba decision and I do Sharazuba Nana, the Honorable Orso.
Thank you very much. Before I go on, thank you very much. Yes, first of all, Resources and Development Committee. What I would suggest is to get a Department of Justice opinion on the grazing official and farm board members, because this stipend issue, well, is probably affecting the farm board members too. And just like the chapters, Department of Justice has an opinion that says that the chapters are not part of the tribal government. Any part of the tribal government within the 3 branch. So hada da asla what ego ako bi salane akonde dasin so title 26 a b. So ako Department of Justice's opinion indicates that the chapters, the 110 chapters, is not part of the 3 branch government, and they're not a part of it. Akoko even na direct funding, which is in the I think we need to go back to the drawing table on the grazing officers and farm board to determine where they stand in where their placement is within the 3 branch government. Is it within the legislative branch or the judicial or the executive branch? And not the snini. I'm sure staff there at the Department of Agriculture is trying to do their best to try to meet the needs to get these payments out. But the communication really needs to be communicated to the grazing officers. Some of them may need help. And, I don't know that they are elected officials, grazing officers and farm board members. And that's what Mr. Watchman speaks to. They're not, basically he's saying they're not normal employees. They're not normal Navajo Nation employees. Tribal employee the tribal employee may say, I don't need to listen to you. You're an elected official. I don't work for you. That's probably their mentality. And I think one solution, just looking at solution instead of, I think the program, communication skills out and proper information and, try to see who, that communication needs to occur. If it can't occur, why don't the program say, I can't do it? RDC. Maybe we need to put the grazing officials under the legislative branch. Staff, can Department of Agriculture staff handle the workload of processing the claims for the number of the land board, farm board, and prison officials. In that, do they need additional resources to try to pick up that aspect of the shortfall on the employees? So I think it comes down back to that. It sounds like there's only 1 or 2 employees trying to process the claims. So I think that's another aspect of trying to find solutions to this, because as 23rd Council, we'll get to you when we get to you. There's always been stipend issues. And at 7 years, the Department of Agriculture, the separation of powers, but when is it that you say that, I think they're not doing anything to try to find solution to this? Because if they were really finding solution to this would have been a better recommendation would have been presented to the oversight committee to say, hey, we need some more money for this. We need some more money for that to have this position so that we have a full-time person addressing and accepting the claims, processing the claims, and getting it over to AP. And it ties together with the mileage claims. We'll get to it. No, I said, as I came into 23rd Council, grazing officers, farm board, and land board members have been facing these issues, and I really haven't seen a solution brought forth to the oversight committee. Western Agency, my grazing officer has some questions. So I went ahead and made some copies of the resolutions that the council approved. And to shed light to a lot of his questions, because the grazing officer shouldn't be asking me, the executive branch staff, these are for training for such and such, and this is what we want from the comprehensive budget. And Mr. Watchman came before the council, and these things should have been presented and relayed to the grazing officers, farm board members, and land board members, so that they can comprehend it. Council we did our job. We funded those things. The program is supposed to execute and get these information out to the grazing officer in forms of direct services. Sounds like direct services is really not done or provided to the grazing officers. It may be a few, but if it's a few, so hey, call them in. So hey, make them understand. Some of them may have some of them has to see it written down. Yesterday, I had a person call me from the related to an issue, and a Navajo Nation employee pushed him aside because he was going to lunch. That's direct services.
Thank you. Honorable So, as oversight committee, and I'm not saying he could do ne data needs it. Don't that any data needs it. No, didn't ha na fikasha. Nó quá ta huy chán đây là. Tôi có thể ati huy chán. À lấy tôi hay show này là lá ra tan. Yat echo ha. Raising official between the nation. What Abba Hanson, Khala Adana, they even said when we had a leadership meeting, we want to stay under Department of Agriculture. Is what they stated. For the record, they did. So that is clear evidence as well that sometimes and so quaggy not being on time or incomplete. These are areas that create stigmas for a good working relationship. As Oversight Committee, we just need to listen again to the agency executive grazing officials and see what's on their minds as well. Of course, we just need to have that leadership meeting, come together and discuss this and come to a resolve. Even yesterday, about a month ago, we were at Twin Arrows. We were there as leadership. We were there because we work with grazing officials. The 5 agencies that we met, the RDC tour that we took for the drought, we met with them. There will be more and more issues. But the part of all this is coming together as partners and come up with a solution. So that you do work with your chapter officials, grazing officials, your land board, farm board, and we just need to encourage them to continue the work they do. And I know where the pandemic is with us. It would be nice to meet with them at Twin Arrows and just open up the whole place and meet with everybody and discuss these issues from the controller's office as well. So we have approximately 25 minutes before Nabikiyatke. Any other comments or questions? Recommendation that is made today from leadership, RDC, is to have a leadership meeting with the grazing official, Department of Agriculture, DNR, and the controller's office. So, any other comments or questions?
Honorable Nez?
RDC? Shania, comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, there's an I thought, Zach, Vice Chair, I don't know, I said nothing again, thought, yeah, today, I don't staff, I thought, don't hit nothing again, it's not, I get this up to this afternoon. Okay, Quaggy, it's this, I didn't get Shania, I agree, that maybe a grazing official by agency meeting should be conducted according to, I thought, like Shania Herman stated, there's grazing officials out there just through the district that work with their district officials and work with one another to submit their documents. Okay, if that part is lacking within an agency, we'll find out all those things. But I believe that we need to come up with a solution as well. And I don't want to get out. This has been brought up ever since we came into office. The one lady, I'm sure you heard it when you were chapter president. I heard it when I was chapter president from the local grazing code. There needs to be a solution, a better format of what needs to be done. And every day we say that we're here to improve our nation, to improve working relationships within not only ourselves but with our chapters and our departments, our divisions. And we look for guidance from each of them to give us that and to come up with these solutions. And I think through this meeting that those things will be accomplished at that time. It will take time, yes, because we're still in a pandemic. It's not going to happen overnight. But these are changes that are going to be happening. What needs to be done? We've already heard from the Department of Agriculture what was missing or what is lacking as far as documents go, and then what needs to be submitted. Those are the ways to verify that people are getting their want justification as well. And I have grazing officials texting me as well, asking me, why is this discussion coming up? What's going on? So I agree, that through our agency district meetings that we will have and get solutions like that. I just want to make those comments, and I do support the fact that we need to have the meetings at the agency level and then come up with solutions in that way and take it back to our strategic meeting that we need to have as RDC. I'll quit, Ashna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stewart. Mr. Watchman, could you briefly have a closing statement as how we can make improvements for the grazing officials' reimbursement stipends issue, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we are in the path of, with our current staff on with the current, requirements and improving. I'm not saying that there's no room for improvement on that and how we currently do that, but solutions that are outside of what is under code and the reimbursement, I think that should be explored. And the bringing back up, I think it was brought up several times regarding how we could work with the chapters and have the chapters take some responsibilities. I think that was sort of answered by DOJ and also the tax, under the tax unit. So maybe we need to bring that back forth and see how we can comply with that. Going back what I mentioned about a settlement that was entered into, and that settlement basically says that we basically are telling the IRS that these are a quasi-employee. Stating that, that agreement may have to be looked into again and see how we could maybe go back to the old system of compensation where it's not considered payroll. That sort of brings up the problem we're having because, sometimes payroll changes the deadline and which, for whatever reason, holiday or not, and it sort of has a catabolic effect to everyone involved to submit a document. But nonetheless, a leadership meeting, maybe scheduling that as soon as we can, and we will take the responsibility of offering some solutions to, maybe codifying a new direction, or the full-time employee, what that would cost, or the other things, capacity. We are going to be hiring some more people that will look at the capacity, but unfortunately, the system right now probably needs to be tinkered with for even as many folks we have working on that will still come to the same problem with incomplete documents and now cannot be submitted. So, Mr. Chair, we're more than willing, open to leadership and also get into to a better process. And as we work to our new fiscal year and seeing that can be redesignated, maybe another program, or if not, maybe with the actions of the Appropriation Act, looking at isolating these dollars for certain purposes other than currently right now. It's under the reimbursement as Navajo employee, and that's where the problem begins. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Watchman. We certainly appreciate your staff. They did an excellent job at Twin Arrows when we had the grazing officials work sessions out there. So thank you for that, and we'll continue to come to a solution and work work towards improving how our elected grazing officials can best have their reimbursements back to them in a timely manner. During our leadership meeting, we'll have these discussions, recommendations, and come to a solution. If not, we'll go ahead and accept the report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Who's this?
Chairman, this is Roland So.
Roland So, we'll give you an opportunity to speak at the leadership meeting. Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chair, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay. Texton, his vote as green. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. We're down to C, NTA report on IHS and the funds, as well as changes to 0257-21 NTA. Ms. Nelson, Mr. Kuntz.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair Nez and honorable members of the RDC committee and other members of the Navajo Nation Council. Several of the delegates had reached out to us and asked for a little bit clarity on the sanitation deficiency system and also about the dollars that IHS is projecting will come to Navajo through that process. So we put together a slide presentation. I believe that was sent to the members of RDC here. And if you can reference that, we'll just go through a number of slides very quickly. But to start it off, the sanitation deficiency system is a system that collects all types of projects that are related to sanitation. So water and wastewater projects in particular, but it also collects information on solid waste projects or trash disposal. Those projects rarely get funded because they want to get first-time services for services into the home. But those are in their system. They also have other water and wastewater projects that may not be serving homes, but might be larger facilities, and they have not funded those unless there's homes to be served. So we've come to call those capacity projects because they project the need for future capacity and gives you the ability to grow your community and services. And IHS likes to limit it to existing requests as well as only residential services. So as we go through this presentation, we'll explain why that's important. So if we can move to slide 2. Okay, so slide 2 shows what IHS is projecting coming to Navajo. If they use the same allocation system, the local IHS is projecting that Navajo would receive $675 million in construction dollars. And that would be funded each of 5 years or $135 million per year. Their latest published eligible projects totals $543 million. These are projects that are previously identified on Navajo for water and wastewater extensions to homes. So they're going to be somewhat overfunded, about $132 million in additional funding above the current eligible projects. So that gives you some room to add projects that may emerge or new project needs. It also gives you some room for cost increases. Okay, so when we were going through the formulation of an ARPA plan, Community Development, Department of Community Development, DCD, solicited through a portal from chapters for projects. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about what the chapters were communicated, but what we did on the utility side was we pulled out all the water and wastewater projects, and they totaled about 300 million. And this 300 million, we went through an exercise of looking at the current SDS listing, and Jason John and his consultant also did the same thing. So we did this together in parallel to compare results. And we found that in the next slide, slide 3, after reviewing that, we found that 71% of those chapter requested projects are already recorded in SDS. In other words, they would be funded through the IHS effort that was approved and funded. At the very top of that sheet, you see 0257-21. Close to 23 million of those projects that were chapter nominated are also in 25721. There was also defunded CARES. There's about 2 million projects there that also showed up on the chapter list. And then there's a 0209-21 that 30 million of those projects are shown here on the chapter list. So those other efforts are already going forward that would cover those needs. Those were duplications in the chapter request. The IHS SDS list is covering the majority of them. That's already going to be covered under their funds. And that leaves about 46,700,000 that's not currently in SDS. Now, what we see in those $46 million worth of projects is they are water extensions that serve homes, and they could be put into the SDS system and could be covered by that funding that is projected to be coming. So the only projects that were in the SDS portal that aren't covered by some other source of dollars is about 9 million for irrigation and livestock projects. And those projects were told by the controller's office and DOJ that those are not eligible for ARPA funds. They'd have to be funded through a different avenue. So what we did in the next slides was we just showed the different general sources of dollars, the SDS dollars, the Division of Water Resources and N2A 257 projects, the defunded CARES, and then the portal projects. And the question was how many of those were double counted. And in slide 5, we show that the majority of those projects are covered by one of those other legislations or by the future IHS dollars. So that's what we were recommending, is to use those SDS dollars to take care of the chapter projects. That's why they didn't show up in 257. And to maximize the dollars coming through the IHS model. That way you would not be taking more of the ARPA dollars towards those projects, as they're already funded by a separate US legislation. The next slide is an overall map of Navajo, and it kind of gives you a view of, in general, kind of the global water strategy that Water Management, N2A, and other parties have been working on for a number of years. This map shows all the blue lines are where we have existing system right now. The red lines are future large transmission mains that move high volumes of water, what we come to call bulk water. So on the far east, you see the Cutter lateral, and that line is complete. The treatment system's complete, and that line is flowing water, and it's intertied all those Eastern Agency existing water systems together. So they now have a great abundance of supply. In the middle, you see the Navajo Gallup line, and a portion of that has been built. The source to pull water out of the river is still being designed and has not been put in place yet. But once that's designed, then you can move water through that whole corridor that's in red. Up at the north, you can go further west, and you got a line that already comes from Farmington that's in the ground. It hasn't been activated yet. And then as it goes south, it gets into Crown Point. It goes through Gallup to Navajo regions beyond Gallup, and then it brings water into the Window Rock region. In the middle, at the north end, you have the Utah settlement, and that will put another withdrawal on the San Juan and bring water from the north-south into Kayenta. And then on the far right, those water rights are still being litigated, but you have a proposed pipeline that would move water from the north all the way down to Cameron, into Tuba City, and into some of the Bennett Freeze area. What we want to illustrate too is all the black dots on there are IHS recorded homes that have no water in the home. They're not piped water yet. So you see from that representation, there's a number of areas that have not been expanded into and do not have a system to supply. So the unmet needs list, or the SDS that IHS was funded for, is supposed to cover all these black dots and to build systems into those areas and get those homes served. In order to do that, you do still need to expand the core system. And there are areas, if you focus on Kayenta towards the top, there's a gap between Kayenta and Chilchimbato, and then between Chilchimbato and Rough Rock, and then between Rough Rock and mini farms. Those lines could be bridged. There's homes within those areas. So that's what we would push IHS to design and build those interties and to serve those homes in the in-between areas. As you come further south, many farms to Chinle, from Chinle south, there's about 13 miles between there and the line that comes out of Burnside Junction. And you can see black dots in there, and it shows homes in between. So that line needs to be extended by these SDS dollars and pick up those homes. And you could move water from the north all the way down through that region into Delcon. We have been advocating that the line on the western side be extended also, not just to Cameron, but down along the Navajo border back into the Loop area. You'll see a bunch of black dots in there. So there's a bunch of homes there that don't have a system that could be picked up if the water rights group envisions extending that red line all the way back into Loop and back towards Twin Arrows. So those are the general plans, but by IHS responding and funding the full SDS in total, it should bridge these projects. And we feel the chapter portal project can all be covered by those IHS dollars. And the two limitations with the IHS money is, one, they're slow to get to construction. And then two is the right-of-way process. And we know, this committee and others have been working on trying to streamline the right-of-way process, which really needs to happen. If that does not happen, it'll be very difficult to spend these dollars and get them in the ground. So we very much support that effort. We would strongly recommend that there be a target given to those people that are working on streamlining. That, for example, years ago, we set a goal to try to get to a right-of-way process that would be no longer than 30 days. And we got that process down to about 3 months or 90 days, between 90 days and 6 months. And then it began to grow, and it started getting long and bulky again. And now it's back up to about a year to year and a half. IHS says their right-of-way process takes them from a year to 3 years to get right-of-way. So we know that's a big limitation, and it's a major target that needs to be resolved. The second thing is their slow ability to get these projects to construction. And in a lot of areas, for the other 575 tribes, they're smaller needs, smaller tribes. They don't have a construction agency, and the majority of them contract that work out. So we're strongly encouraging IHS here to get into contracting the design and contracting additional construction workforce. We have NECA that can expand, but they're going to get funded at 5 times what they normally get funded at. So they definitely have to increase their production rate. So those are the areas we're targeting. There is kind of an overall water plan. We wanted to make sure that the delegates, and in particular our oversight RDC, is aware that there is an overall plan on how these pieces should fit together. We feel that through 257 defunded cares and the SDS model, that we believe that it is very, very much fully funded with a little bit of excess for future growth. And we just wanted to make sure that everybody's educated about that they understand within that water and wastewater arena, we do have an overall plan and that we're prepared to move forward with it. And we're just seeking support and approval of our ability to move forward. So that sums up the total of what we had. We went through this with Honorable Stewart this morning, and he felt it was necessary to get this before the committee. And so this was very quick and efficient for us to get onto the committee agenda. We really appreciate the openness of allowing us to do that. So that concludes our report. We want it to be quick and efficient, and we stand open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuntz. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Motion, Stewart.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Second.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable members of RDC, any comments or questions? I hear none, and I will go ahead and call for the votes. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote? Vice Chair Walker.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I vote green. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland also text in green. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kuntz, for the report. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, committee, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Down to old business, there's none. New business, none. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 meetings to approve, but we can just approve the first one and wait on the others till next RDC meeting. So we're on A, approving an executive leadership session with Tallgrass Energy and Navajo Land Department and RDC on the hydrogen pipeline project for Thursday the 13th at 8 a.m. Motion?
Chairman, I motion.
Thank you. Second. Second. None. Is there a second? Mr. Tahi, our colleague.
Second, Daniels.
Please. Honorable Daniels, thank you. Any comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chair, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. And Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland text in his green vote. Honorable Stewart? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. And we can defer the last 4 to next RDC meeting for approval because we have Nabikia work session right now. So we're at number 8 on the agenda, close of meeting. Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn.
Chair, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by
Daniel.
Honorable Daniels. Thank you. Any comments or questions? None. Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland also votes green according to his text message. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Stewart, did you say green?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. It is now 1:05 and we are officially adjourned. Thank you, and we'll get on Nabikieti at this time. Thank you.